Good morning. My name is Lillian Muli. I'm sitting in for Serafine this morning. And this morning we're talking about relationship red flags. And relationship red flags are unhealthy patterns or behaviors between you and your partner that could actually point at things not going in the right direction. So if you notice any of these, what should you do? How should you react to them? And how should you work around this with your partner? I mean, should you just opt to bail out on them? Or should you opt to work on the red flags and get a positive way forward? In studio this morning, we talk relationship matters, as is the case every Tuesday, with starting from this end, CJ Atemo. He's a life coach. We're also joined by QT of Radio Citizen. She's our resident analyst here on the show. And we're also joined by Roberta Bobby on this end, who is a blogger. Good morning, guys, and thanks for being with us once again.
Good morning.
Relationship red flags. For me, top of mind, but it's not I mean, you're the experts. So, Bobby.
Yeah.
For you, what are some of the things that are just, they just go red in your mind when you're interacting with someone, a partner, and what should people look out for?
Yeah, I think off the top of my head is anything that comes off as abusive to you, anything that makes you feel like, oh, this doesn't really sit right. And it's not everything, mnaweza kuwa tuna varying opinions, but I use the word abusive because it has to be harmful in some way, whether emotional, psychological, or in extreme cases, physical. So red flags ni, watu wanasemanga zinakuanga pink sale wako in love. Lakini red flags ni hizo vitu. You know, something might happen in your relationships and you leave the situation feeling, am I comfortable? Do I feel respected and heard and seen? Those are the things you need to start to look out for. And the easiest way to start noticing these red flags is by having standards for yourself and treating yourself in a certain way so that you already know what you can accept and what you cannot tolerate for at all. Kuna vitu zenye huwezi compromise on kama respect ama communication. How someone speaks to you. Are they rude? Do they shout? Do they scream at you? That can be a red flag. So such things, when you realize that where you're calm with yourself, you talk to yourself with so much respect, anytime someone raises their voice at you, you'll be able to notice that doesn't make me feel right or that's not right. And when you ask, is it time to leave? Is it time to talk about it? I think kitambo, maybe 2 years ago, I'd have said bounce. The way Shatta says, unafaa kushtiep. But there's things, I think, as you grow older, there's relationships where vituka compromise can come in, but immediately you feel abused, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, physically, especially, it's time to leave.
QT?
Yeah.
Wow. Toxic environment whereby you feel like you're uncomfortable. I'm not okay. Like, you just feel like someone is putting you down. You're sad. Lillian, you're in a relationship, but you're sad. You're lonely. You're just uncomfortable. And one thing I came to realize, butterflies are actually a red flag because you think you feel it's the excitement, but it's actually you're feeling anxious, you're feeling like you're uncomfortable. So sometimes we confuse excitement with those butterflies, they're telling you to run, man. Like, just run, because this is not the place you're supposed to be. If you're making me feel uncomfortable, if you're making me feel sad, lonely, you're making me feel down, like I'm not myself, like, Lillian, you're supposed to be happy if you're with me. But if you start telling me, oh, you know, I don't like an expressive woman, I don't like someone who, everything you're describing that you don't like, it's totally me. Everything that you're talking about is just me. So I'm just there sitting and wondering, okay, why are you with me then? Why are you even here in the first place? So a red flags is just a toxic environment, whether it's emotional, financial, physical, any place that you feel that you're not safe, because in every relationship, you should feel safe, you should feel loved, you should feel appreciated and respected. So if you're not feeling all these things, trust you me, it's totally a red flag. And also feeling free, like you feel like yourself, you can be a child, you can be mature, you can be anything you want in that relationship, you know, because all of us, we have that, you know, childlike something, a child inside of us. So sometimes it kind of comes out and you need someone who totally understands you when you're a child, when you're mature, when you're happy, when you're sad, and all those things.
You talked about anxiety, and that's really come out very strongly, because that feeling, and you're saying that the the butterflies as well. That's not necessarily a good feeling if it's
not, Lillian, because the butterflies inside you, it's like anxiety, like, are you really happy?
Yeah.
Or are you just scared? Because sometimes it comes out like fear. The butterflies might be fear. So if you're feeling that anxiety inside of you, there's clinical anxiety, which is okay, Lillian, but there's that anxiety of, am I really doing the right thing? Am I really okay? Is this the right person for me? If you start feeling all those things, they are red flags. But sometimes we feel like it's excitement. Imagine it's not. You need to differentiate between the two. Is it excitement for me? Or is it really fear that is inside of me is telling me to just... And we should always listen to our instincts, the deep down feeling that you're feeling inside of you.
And CJ, even as we talk about red flags, you know, there are people who say, I like bad boys, I like bad girls. So, you know, that addictive pull and push towards somebody that you can clearly see is a red flag. I mean, it's a red flag situation, but you're still hanging in there. You're still getting... But what are the red flags for you? And this, for you, you know, men, we like, as women, we like to say, oh, this guy did this. But for men as well, what do we do as women? And red flags could also be between interpersonal relationships, girl to girl, boy to boy, yeah.
I think generally, I don't know whether that represents men, but generally I think the three things on the top, that is insincerity, insecurity, in the insecurities in the other person, and inconsistency. Insincerity, when somebody begins to tell a lot of lies, they're not very open about how they feel, what they think. You can always tell. There's some details that are hidden. There's certain areas you can't go into. You can't probe beyond a certain level. And you wonder, so how am I committing to this person when I wouldn't know part of them? It means they've not trusted me enough, or there's certain things about their lives that they've not handled, which may show up somewhere else. Insecurities now would bring the elements like Bobby's talking about. That's where the abuse comes in. It may be something about, I don't like your friends, I don't want you hanging out with your friends, I think you're too close to this person, and everything around you makes them feel very uncomfortable because they're very insecure, and so they want to have a sense of control. Then the inconsistency is, I may be in a relationship with you and I treat you well, but then I treat Bobby and Cutie very badly. And so there's no standard of who I am. Am I generally a good person, or is it because there's interest that I have in you that is making me behave the way I'm behaving? And probably if that is removed, or if I am sure that you are with me, then probably I'll start acting the way I'm acting with the other people. So I'll always say, you know, look at how people treat other people as well, not just you, because they've got that element of interest as well. Talking about the things of people who are attracted to, like the bad boys and the bad girls, there's something about us being drawn to what is familiar. And if we have somehow experienced some sense of abuse, control, pain, trauma, we might find ourselves being drawn towards that. And because it is familiar, it becomes a bit predictable for us. And if it has worked on our self-esteem, I may feel like I don't deserve anything better than that. So even when you are telling me this is a bad boy, I'm not seeing that this is a bad boy or a bad girl. I don't feel that I deserve anything better than that. To some people, their love expression is pain. When somebody causes them pain, they actually feel that they're loved. And the butterflies that Kitty is talking about then really drive them. They want that adrenaline. They're guys who can't settle in something that is peaceful, quiet, tranquil. You know, if they're not always anxious, then this thing is boring. You know, they want to be on the edge. They don't like it being very predictable. So it points to who they are on the inside and the things that they have either gone through or the things they have not dealt with. Right.
Now, in terms of control, because CJ has talked about control and how to address that, because these red flags fundamentally, I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about control here. And that's something that a lot of people go through. You know, it's a point of concern. They'll reach out to friends, family, therapists. But in terms of addressing this controlling situations, and control is wide when we talk about control in relationships. Bobby, for you, what are some of the key examples you can give us as regards control in a relationship and how to work around this?
Something I've realized in relationships is that people forget to separate the individuality from who they are in the relationship. They start to feel like they own this other person, or they have to be in charge of everything that has to do with their lives. But you see, before you even get into a relationship, you have to realize that you're complete on your own. You're just complementary when you come into the relationship, like to add onto it. But you have to have your own life, your own friends, your own dreams, your own career, things you're doing, so that if someone doesn't text you in 5 seconds, your heart doesn't start beating like, where are they? What are they doing? Why are they texting me? It really, really helps with the communication and the insecurities and the understanding. So first of all, work on self. Just be yourself, be your own person, be yourself, so that it doesn't extend. And I see this in a lot of types of relationships, even with mothers and their kids. You know, when mothers are like, usiende huko, usifanye, usifanye. But it gets to a point, I think it hits them, that they have to allow their kids to be their own people. They have to give them autonomy to make their own decisions, to be able to see which are the best friends, which are the best places to go, which you cannot control everything. You can just do your best up to your point. Na ikifika point yenye insecurities zako zinashindwa kujitoa kwa relationship, then maybe it means you need to take a step back, work on yourself, and then be complete within yourself, so that you do not try to exert control on the next person. And for the other person that is on the receiving end, you have to be very, very aware as well. You really, really have to stay on your toes with working on self, so that you're able to notice, he made a comment about the dress I was wearing, but when we met, this is exactly how I used to dress. Where is that coming from? Yeah. Is he insecure? Is he jealous? Is it a conversation we can have? Maybe there's something changing in his life and he feels a certain type of way. So maybe it's a conversation we can have. So just being able to notice these red flags is really, really good, because it keeps you a step ahead. And I like what CJ and QT said, especially the things about butterflies. You know, when you're around people that you're comfortable around, you'll notice there's no anxiety. If you just pay attention, even if it's a new room you're entering, you've never met these people, if they're welcoming and kind, hizo butterflies wisha, and you're able to calm your nerves. Okay. So if you're around someone and you're constantly walking on eggshells, you know, am I okay? Do I look beautiful? Am I dressed right? Do I say the right things? Do I speak well? Kama kuna hiyo unashinda ukijishuku, unashinda ukijiuliza, yes, it goes back to self, but then you have to ask yourself, why is it that being in such environments or being around such people makes me feel 1, 2, 3? Yeah. Check your energy when you leave rooms, when you stop hanging out with people. Ask yourself, how do they make me feel? How do I feel? Do I feel ni kani nimejengwa? Kuna watu hang out now, you learn so much in 3 seconds. Hata kama ni vitu mundane, kama how to cook ugali, ama you always learn something new. Na kuna watu unatokanga nika, they've drained you. Even if you did not speak at all, you feel like your energy has been depleted, or you had to try too hard. So now you have to start asking yourself these questions and see, am I being manipulated? Is there some sort of control being exerted over me? Yeah. Do I feel peaceful around these people? Ask yourself these questions, and then you start to see, this is not the ideal situation for me. And I like pushing people to work on self, because once wewe mwenye uko comfortable with yourself, you even start attracting tribes that are just like you. When you know how to take care of yourself, everyone around you will just be like you, and you'll start to see, oh, I don't even need to put too much pressure in showing up when I'm hanging out with QT, because she's herself, I can be myself, our relationship is going great. So you'll be able to start noticing those red flags if you pay attention.
And you know, you're speaking about being yourself and not losing yourself over people, but we tend to do that when you're in a safe space and a happy space with someone. You don't want to go out with your friends anymore. You're like, I can't wear short dresses anymore. I mean, my guy doesn't like that. Or the guy's like, hey, I can't hang out with the boys on weekdays because mama doesn't like this. We have date night on Wednesdays, so I can't be with the boys. So in terms of losing yourself and the fact that, okay, there's control, yes, but our personal responsibility to ourselves in terms of staying true to who we were before we met these people or before we got involved with these people, and how to protect that so that, you know, you don't lose yourself in all of this and then call it control at the end of the day.
So, Lillian, I can say that that's where there's a difference between compromising and losing yourself. You can compromise some behavior, you can sacrifice, because at the end of the day, a relationship is about sacrificing and compromising some behaviors. Because Lillian, you can say 100%, I'll just continue to be cutie 100%, the way I was before I met my guy or before I met my chick. So the thing is, at the end of the day, in everything that you do, you need to stay true to yourself. Yes, I can compromise certain behavior. For example, if I used to go out, like you said, like if I used to go out like every day, I can say, okay, fine, let me do it 3 times a day. That's not losing yourself. Because for me, for someone like me, for example, sometimes my work involves even going to the clubs and doing all those activations and all that, traveling a lot. So sometimes you might be in a relationship with someone who doesn't understand that kind of, and they're like, why do you have to go to the club? Why do you have to work late nights? Why do you have to, do all that? Why is it always you working in the office? Why, those questions, they start coming up and you realize. So you might lose yourself in terms of, you might forget who you were before you met this guy. I was cutie before I was this guy. I work in a media house. I do events. I do all these things. But when you are dating me, you knew all these things. But now you want to be selfish and decide, you know what? You need to stay in the house. You can't do all these things that you've been doing. But when you were dating me, you were okay, or you were pretending to be okay with all of this. So if someone understands you and loves you at the end of the day, they need to at least compromise some things with you, because I can't live in fear, Lillian, of losing this guy. So I'll be thinking, I'll just be staying and thinking to myself, oh my God, what if I do this? What if I lose him? What if he leaves? If you live in fear, that's already a red flag on its own, because I cannot be living in fear when I'm in a relationship. I need to be free. I need to be in an environment whereby I can make decisions, and I know my guy is going to be okay with all these decisions that I'm making. Yes, he might not be 100, yes, but I can come up to him and talk to him and say, by the way, we are doing this and this and this, so can you kindly allow this, like respectfully, but I'm not losing myself in all this, because sometimes you just find yourself, you change everything 100%, and guys are like, hey, by the way, nowadays you don't do A, B, C, D. But if you look at everything, you find that you stopped completely everything for someone who wouldn't even do the same for you. So that's like, I can call it emotional abuse, if not, if not mental and emotional at the same time, because Lillian, sometimes you find yourself that you're depressed, you're stressed, you just want to stay in the house. And it's not because you're happy, because I want to make this other person happy. Ask yourself one question. Are you even happy yourself, And another red flag I would add on top of that is these guys love moving in quickly, not literally moving into the house, but like they love moving quickly, They don't give you a clear space to even think. They just come with everything like papa, like you can't even find space to think. And they do that because they know if I do all these things, they come with all this lavish, putting all these things together, they can only sustain this maybe for 3 months. But after those 3 months, what happens, Lillian? Okay, you're bringing me flowers, you're doing all these things, then after 3 months, you stop doing all these things. As CJ said, inconsistency now starts. Because this guy was so consistent with doing these things, enticing you to be in this relationship with him. And then now, ukiingia box, now they start changing and they're like, okay, sasa ashaingia box, now I can stop doing all the things that I used to do for them. So you find yourself, you lose yourself in this first 3 months, in this phase when you're in love, you're all, you're feeling all these good things. But later on, you start realizing, by the way, I moved in too fast. I didn't even think about what type of a man is he? What does he do? Is he, when he becomes angry, anger management issues and all that, you start realizing we moved in too fast. So you need to be very careful. As Bobby said, like, just be true to yourself. You can compromise some things, but don't lose yourself in a relationship.
And CJ, like QT is saying, 3 to 6 months, this thing, I mean, you can only be on your best behavior for so long before the real you emerges. So you met me in a club, and now, my boys are seeing you in the club every day, I don't like this, or, I mean, just even vice versa, even for the chick. I mean, she met you in a club, and now all of a sudden you and not just necessarily around the clubbing issue, but the fact that within 3 to 6 months, this perfect person becomes somebody totally different, and then you start seeing the cracks. So how to work around that? Is this who you're actually dealing with? Is this something that people subconsciously do? Because I don't think people walk into situations to manipulate others, at least not everybody. I mean, but the thing is, we are who we are, so eventually the real person, like I said, will reveal themselves?
Well, you know, a lot of people, or rather people get into relationships for different reasons. There's somebody who's getting in to settle. So when they get into it, they don't want to do anything else, anywhere else. It's not even their partner who will tell them stop hanging out with people.
Yeah.
They'll just get in, and that's what they wanted. They've reached their Canaan land, not political. They've just reached where they wanted to go, and that's it.
Yeah.
And they never realize that they're cutting off even their own families.
Yeah.
There are people who go in for status. So once they get that, then they probably want to find their way around the things that they wanted to do. So different reasons that people will go into relationships for. Now, the reason that makes somebody comes into a relationship will determine how they run it. If I came in, for example, because I wanted status, so I'm looking at Lillian has built her brand, and I want to be seen with Lillian. Once you come in, I have the brand, then now I begin to manage this brand to fit what I want.
Why are you speaking to me?
So
Any one-on-one sessions.
So then
Yeah.
the person then begins to edit this version to fit into what is their ideal, the aspects that they admire, that they love, they're attracted to in this particular person, but then there's something else that they feel they either need to add or remove. So they take the package, and then they feel, after a while, I'm going to make this package become consumable to me. So it's like you having a product, and then you either are going to make, if it was in a 1 liter jar, so you're going to do like half a liter. So you're determining, I still want the same product, but smaller. So I want her, but not with the level of confidence that she has. I need to reduce the confidence just a little bit, but I love the person. That is what makes people begin to look like they're changing on you. They want, what they've seen, but then there's an aspect of you that they're not comfortable with, and they're hoping that they can make that fit into who they are. Yeah. So when you're relating with somebody, and I'll still use the analogy of the jar, when you're relating with somebody, look at them as a jar. What size are they? Because eventually they will want you to fit into their size. They may want you, but the problem will be your size. So if your dreams are too big, they will want to squeeze your dreams into theirs. If you're too social, they want you to come down. Everybody who's coming around you is a package, a jar size. So if this person is a 1/4 liter and you were this 1 liter, you know you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
So they want the essence and the substance of who you are, but then to the degree that they are comfortable with. And I think sometimes we don't pay attention to that. Just because they're very attracted to who we are and the things that we like, we don't look at their mindset. We don't look at their mentality, their worldview. We don't look at their socialization. We don't look at how would this person relate with somebody who thinks big, who is free-spirited, somebody who has goals, who has a drive, somebody who wants to pursue things by themselves, especially when it comes to ladies. Because you see, in the context of the African man, once you come in, you settle, forget about your dreams and your goals. And even when you have those, it's only to help the man's dreams. But if you are the kind of person who wants to drive their purpose, drive your own economic empowerment, you've got your things that you want to do, and then you find somebody who, whenever you're talking, they're talking about even their friends, and they say, I don't know why so-and-so's wife is behaving like that, yet the husband has given them everything. That's a red flag right there. Because to them, it means that once you are married and taken care of, you shouldn't dream. You shouldn't believe, you shouldn't think, you shouldn't drive. And that happens even with men. There are men who get cut when they come to certain women, because if this person is not big enough for what you have, they'll either bring you to their size or you have to bring them up. And I tell you, it's easier for them to cut you down to size than for you to upgrade them.
Yeah. And we want to now zero in on three key issues. There's anger, there's jealousy, there's possessiveness in a relationship. And Bobby, you're very big on talking about value system, childhood trauma, and how we carry these things forward into adulthood, even sometimes subconsciously. So in terms of red flags, when it comes to, say, having issues around control, like we're talking about, or somebody, becoming somebody else after a couple of months, in terms of now these translating into, say there's jealousy involved or possessiveness involved, and then now trying to work around that, and then sensing that there's some level of anger, or that the person is not really communicating as you would expect them to, but is instead, say, if you have an issue with me, can we communicate, or are you going to have an angry outburst? How are we going to work around the issues that we have? So just talking about red flags in terms of how far anger should go, if at all it should be there, and in terms of control and possessiveness, how to work around that so that we don't find ourselves in situations where now we're having like angry outbursts, back and forth, tension, toxicity within the home or within whatever space that you find yourself in with your person.
CJ said we're normally drawn to what's familiar, and most times peace really feels boring. When you start working on yourself and going to the gym, hata kitu maybe unaweza tuambia, when you start like loving yourself, treating yourself nicely, haupati phone calls mingi anymore, watu wakutafuta. Ukianza kumake dough vizuri, like watu because you're so focused on what you're doing. And what happens is that you start to focus so much on yourself that the things that you like and the things that are drawn to you become the things of your frequency. And this is basically the space that you always find yourself in. You wake up happier, you find yourself loving yourself. But something I want to mention is that, you see, kitu atu realizing ni ukianza ku work on yourself pia, you forget about where you were before you healed. These abusive people, they might be aware of their actions, but most times they feel like they're the victim. They feel like hao ndo wanakosewa. And the thing is, they hardly have self-reflection. Unaona venye ukikosana na mtu unaweza enda ku-Google, what do I do? Ama you start watching YouTube videos. How do I apologize? How do I heal? Abusive people don't have that self-reflection. They don't ask themselves, did I hurt Lillian? Did I piss her off? Was I rude to her? No. For them, it's always justified. She stepped on me, so yeah, I deserved to punch her. Or I needed to be rude to her, so that next time she steps on me, they always have a justification for their actions. They don't do any self-reflection. They don't ask themselves questions. So even in the situation where they start to feel like they're jealous or like they're shouting at you or they're being controlling, there's always a reason for them. There's always a justification. And it's hard for you to kind of have a discussion with them in that time. That's why I always tell ladies, date upwards. Date people who are better than you, smarter than you, more emotionally intelligent than you. They make more money than you. In whatever way better means more to money. You. I had to say that one. In whatever way that means to you. Because it reduces things like, I like to speak to the women because I can't really tell men anything because I'm not a man, but that's why CJ is here. So when you start to work on yourself, that's what I was saying, and you start to date upwards, like people who are better than you, you get to learn from them. Hata wewe mwenye ukiwa na hiyo anga, you see you can come to the situation where they know how to listen better, they know how to talk to you, they know how to calm you down. And also, men should also date women who have these skills. You see, the thing with emotional intelligence, it's about understanding your emotions, being able to communicate them and being able to manage them. And at some point as an adult, you have to take accountability and responsibility. Yes, you went through childhood trauma. Yes, you were victimized. Yes, you were abused. Yes. Most of us have gone through these things. But at some point when you become more aware, you have to wake up and realize it's now your responsibility to heal. Nobody is coming to save you. Your mom is not going to come to tetea you ati unajua QT alikuwa hivi akapitia hii. No, it's now time for you to heal. And what I always say is, when you're listening to someone and the things they say start to pinch you or you start to feel like you're getting defensive, ask yourself why. Why? Or if you see yourself getting jealous, you see Lillian's nice shoes, I wish ningeza ku afford hizo. Ask yourself why. Is it coming from a place of hate? Is it because you lack? Is it because do the self-introspection and ask yourself, so is it because I want to learn from Lillian? Oh my God, what does she do? How did she become who she is? How is she able to afford those shoes? What can I learn from her instead of, hizo viatu nitamuibia? You see, there's a difference. Like, you have to take accountability and actively decide. I shout when I'm angry. I know some people brag about such things, that mimi nikijam, mtanijua.
Mtanitambua.
But you need to realize that you're actually being abusive and you know what you're doing. It means you're very aware. You're just not taking responsibility to realize that this is something wrong. So anytime you find mtu kao huyo ukimwambia, ai, uko sure hiyo ni sawa venye unakasirikanga, they'll start being defensive. They'll find a justification. Yeah. When I was a kid, sijui my dad, sijui me, I normally shout. You know, they always have a reason for why they are the way they are. But when you, that's what I was coming to. When someone tells you something and you feel defensive, if I come to you and I say, Cutie, I feel like you're kind of jealous of my hair. Let's have a conversation about it. Why is it that I feel that way? What could it be that I saw you doing that made me feel that way? And then do the self-introspection. Ukifeel ni kaina kupinch, it means it's true.
Yeah.
It means it's true. Like something my little brother does, I always say this. He's not little anymore, but I call him a little brother. My younger brother, he calls me out, and sometimes he tells me things that are very difficult to hear, especially because he's younger than me, so what does he know? Yeah. Or where unajua nini basically. But he'll tell me, you know, I don't like how when you get angry, you get condescending. It pinches me, but it means if he's bringing it up, it means he wants to salvage the relationship. He wants me to work on it so that our relationship can be better. He's not telling me so that we can fight more or so that he can make me angrier. So self-reflection ni muhimu sana. Anytime you feel like you have abusive traits, or if people call you out, or if you start to notice ni kama uko in a space where everyone hates you, everyone is angry at you, maybe you're not the victim. Maybe you need to start looking inwardly and ask yourself, what have I done kuchangia to this situation? How am I contributing? Is it that tukikosana I always shout? How can I do better? Yeah. So it's all about wewe mwenyewe kuwa aware, because if you have that level of awareness, you'll notice all these things around you. You'll start to see, CJ is not a real friend. He didn't pull up for my birthday. But then if he can explain himself, if he talks to you and he wants to apologize and explain it and bring a gift. Yeah. You know?
I'll just get your reaction to this, because anger is not necessarily verbal or vulgar. Yeah. It could just be ghosting. It could, I mean, somebody could just decide, I don't have empathy. I'm going to give you the silent treatment. I'm going to ghost you. I'm not going to be available. I'm not even available for this. So in terms of that also happening a lot and manifesting itself in relationships, because Bobby has spoken to us about, you know, the anger and more the verbal one and just being in denial and voicing it. But there are people who actually just give you the silent treatment and refuse to engage and refuse to take responsibility. I'll get your feedback as we wind up here.
Okay, so about that, I call it emotional abuse, because if you're emotionally unavailable for me, that's already emotional abuse. Because if every time we have an issue, you're just like, by the way, I can't deal, I can't talk to you, you go sort out your issues, and then they start telling you, okay, you have issues, you go deal with your issues, and then when you're done, now we can, you know, and when you come back, they will not actually talk about the issue. They will start like, oh, hi Lillian, how are you? Like, you move on like there's nothing that really happened. Someone who cannot be able to deal with your emotional, you know, like I bring it up and say, for example, like, I'm not feeling this, or this is not working out, or this behavior. They don't like to be confronted, as Bobby has said. Like, they just love being in their own space and saying things like, mi nakuwaga hivo. That's already a red flag. Mi nakuwaga hivo. Lilian huwezi niambia unakuwaga hivo. Imagine no one cares unakuwaga hivo. Get over yourself, you know. Huwezi sema ati nakuwaga hivo. It's all about you. You're now in a relationship with someone, and that's why it's called a relationship. When you're on your own, you can kuaga hivyo the way you want to be, all you want to be. But if we are together, utacha kukua hivyo. You need to work on yourself. I work on myself so that when we come together, we are able to deal with these issues. I know we've been through traumas of those like daddy issues, mommy issues. Oh, my dad was not there for me. My mom was not there for me. But I think we go back to the story of the dad with 2 sons. The son who decided, the dad was a drunk. So, and he used to be abusive to the mom. So this guy decided, I don't want this in my house, so I will not be a drunkard, I will not be abusive. Then the other son decided, I'm going to be like my dad. So, Lillian, at the end of the day, you make your choice. If you want to be like that abusive dad that you grew up, so you saw in that house, then you go ahead and do that. But don't blame it on your dad, because the other son who decided, I don't want to be like my dad, I don't want to be part of this journey, because it traumatized him in terms of, why would I treat my woman like that? Why would I don't want my children to grow up seeing me being abusive like that. So I think it's for you to work on yourself, work on those anger issues, work on those mental issues, work on those relationship issues, because you will end up coercing someone. Because sometimes you're in a relationship, someone is coercing you to do something that you don't really want to do. And you're just like, let me just do it because he wants me to do it. Someone comes and coerces you and tells you, let's do this. And you're like, Cheki, that's not me. I don't want to do that. But you'll end up doing it because you feel like you're going to lose him. You want to please him. You want to do this for him. And you'll end up losing yourself in all of this. So that emotional abuse is very silent, but it's abuse. And people don't realize that it's actually abuse. So someone is just silent, but in your head, you're just thinking, oh, he's being peaceful. He's not being peaceful. That's emotional abuse. And you need to realize that, because if you don't realize that, you'll end up also becoming emotionally abused, and you don't even, because we always end up thinking, oh, it has to be physical, he has to hit me, he has to shout at me, he has to do all those things. But sometimes it's just emotional, ghosting me and not dealing with me, like atoke aende, he just walks out on you for 3 days. Ametoka amenda, he's not even talking to you like for a week. You're just there sitting like, you text, you delete, you text, you delete. That's already emotional abuse, because you're craving. He's just, you're posting memes and all that, you're communicating, you want him to actually, you're craving for that attention, Lillian, you're craving, and you're like, I want him to talk to me. This guy, he ghosts you for 2 days, 3 days, you're like, and he, in his mind is like, oh, Kitty is gonna talk to me. I mean, she's the one who is always coming to apologize and talking to me. So you're just there like, oh, it's been 2 weeks, oh, it's been a month, it's been, and you realize, my God, this is actually emotional abuse. You're just feeling like, and once you start, as Roberta said, once you start working on yourself, you don't have to go to the gym, but once you start going to the gym, you start working on yourself, you start feeling better. No, people don't like that side of you. They want you to be addicted to that emotional, to the bad boy thing. I don't want a bad boy. I want a good man. I want a peaceful man. Like CJ said, I want to be led. I want to be lavished. I want to be loved. I don't want a bad boy in my life that makes me a gangster,
that ghosts me.
That ghosts me. Why are you ghosting? If you really love me, chase me if you love me. And if you're the one who came and became the bad person, please apologize. Just apologize and let's move on. But I don't have to apologize to your behavior, Lillian.
And then CJ, this thing of being the bigger person, okay, this person is giving me silent treatment, so let me be the bigger person. After all, I always am. One of us has to be the bigger person. I mean, where does this stop?
I think most of us have not grown learning how to communicate effectively. So all of these manifestations of poor communicative methods, some people, if they're very uncomfortable with the situation, they'll go silent. Some people, when they are afraid, when they think that they have made a mistake, they'll go silent. And some of this, again, come from, you're a kid, you've broken the glass. You know that the next thing to break is you. So you don't want your mama to know you broke the glass because she'll break you. And so you hide, you're afraid. You can't come and say, "Hi, Mom, I'm sorry, I broke the glass," because you'll get such severe punishment. So this person learns how to hide things because of fear. And when they grow up, even when they're now facing difficult situations, they begin to hide and have their fears. So the thing is that most of us need to relearn how to communicate, how to express our feelings. The abusive part is when I'm doing something so as to punish you. Is it because I want to hurt you? Is it because I'm afraid? Is it because I'm uncomfortable? So it's a two-way thing. We're both going to have to play a role to just open up that space for somebody to be able to talk. If you are the one who is always the bigger person, at some point, you need to actually bring it up to the other person and say, look, every time you do this and you keep on going out, you keep on going away, you keep on going silent on me, and I'm always the one looking for you. And I'm not sure that you'll always have me. At some point, one day you will wait and you will not find me. So you've got to make it up in your mind whether you want me here or not.
Yeah,
Yes.
communication is the key. Thanks, guys. We've run out of time, unfortunately. I always say this is such beautiful morning therapy. Everybody wants to wake up to positive vibes around how to better themselves, their relationships, and the spaces around them. So thank you very much, Roberta Bobby. She's a blogger and a resident analyst here. We're also with QT of Radio Citizen, and also CJ Atemo, who is a life coach. Many thanks for staying with us. Stay with Citizen TV. My name is Lillian Muli. Good morning.